In the blink of an eye, civilization crumbles, cities burn, the world is unrecognizable. You have one chance to survive, below ground, deep inside, a nuclear bunker. Imagine this. The world above is in chaos. A nuclear explosion just went off, and your only chance of survival is a secret underground bunker. But could you actually last 24 hours inside one? Today, we're putting ourselves to the test in a real-life nuclear bunker. No phones, no sunlight, and who knows what's lurking in the shadows. This isn't just a challenge, it's a realistic survival test. What's it like to live in a bunker designed to protect against total catastrophe? How do you eat, sleep, and stay sane in complete isolation? And most importantly, would you be able to survive? Stay with me till the end because you won't believe what we uncover in this place. And if you think you could survive, let me know in the comments. Before we lock ourselves in, take a second to smash that like button, subscribe if you love survival content, and let's dive straight in. I remember the first time I stood before the rusted, heavy door of the Cold War-era nuclear bunker. The morning was overcast and cold, the sky a dull grey that set the tone for the adventure ahead. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of what I was about to do pressing down on me. But with a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped into another world. A world of concrete walls, stale air, and an overwhelming silence that swallowed every sound from the surface. The door clanged shut behind me with a finality that sent shivers down my spine. There were no windows to frame a view of the outside, no modern distractions like smartphones or even a clock to remind me of the passing hours. All I had was the constant hum of the aging ventilation system and the echo of my footsteps on the cracked floor. I was alone, left to navigate this relic of a bygone era, built to withstand nuclear explosions and the threat of fallout. In that moment, I knew this bunker would be my home for the next 24 hours. As I walked down the narrow corridor, every detail of the bunker struck me. The peeling paint on the walls, the lingering scent of damp decay, and the oppressive chill that seemed to seep into my bones. It was a place that had once been a haven for those seeking refuge in times of crisis, but now it stood silent and forgotten, holding its secrets close. The atmosphere was heavy with history and loneliness, a reminder of the countless lives that might have once passed through these halls. My first stop was the storage room, where I hoped to find the essentials that would sustain me for the next day. I opened a creaking metal cabinet to reveal a collection of supplies that looked as ancient as the bunker itself. Among them, I found a canister of freeze-dried beef stew from the 90s, its label faded and nearly illegible. The instructions promised instant survival food with just a simple addition of water. I chuckled at the irony of preparing a meal in such dire circumstances, knowing full well that the taste would be anything but gourmet. I mixed the contents with water and took a tentative bite. The texture was uncomfortably chewy, and the flavor was bland, a stark reminder that in a survival situation, you learn to appreciate even the most basic sustenance. Beyond the unappetizing meal, I took note of the other supplies, a water filtration system that, despite its age, seemed capable of providing clean water, a first aid kit neatly arranged on a dusty shelf, and several gas masks, grim relics from the bunker's original purpose. These items, I realized, were meant for short-term survival, stocked for emergencies rather than prolonged habitation. I couldn't help but feel a mixture of admiration and melancholy for the ingenuity of those who once prepared for the worst. Time began to lose all meaning as I settled deeper into the bunker. With no windows or clocks, the hours blurred into one another. The natural cues of day and night were absent, leaving me suspended in an endless cycle of uncertainty. The silence was profound, almost oppressive, and I found myself talking aloud, first to break the stillness, then to comfort myself. I even began addressing an empty corner of the bunker, giving it a nickname, Buddy. It was a half joke, a desperate attempt to inject some humanity into an otherwise desolate environment. The psychological toll of isolation soon became apparent. The constant quiet pressed in on me, magnifying every creak of the old structure and every distant, unidentifiable sound. I remembered stories of survival where prolonged confinement led to anxiety and paranoia, and I couldn't shake the fear that these very feelings might be creeping in. Was I beginning to imagine sounds or shadows that weren't really there? Each echo seemed to carry the possibility of unseen dangers lurking just beyond my perception. Before we move on, Let me ask you something. Could you handle being completely alone in a bunker for 24 hours? Or would the silence and isolation get to you? Let me know in the comments. Now, back to our story. The night fell, or what I assumed was night, as the concept of time had become abstract, and I prepared for one of the most challenging parts of this experience: sleep. I set up a thin sleeping bag on a rickety metal cot in a cramped corner of the bunker. The cot offered little comfort, its surface cold and unforgiving. The stale air, thick with humidity and memories of the past, made it nearly impossible to relax. Every slight noise, the groaning of the structure, the soft hum of the ventilation, seemed amplified in the darkness. I lay there, eyes closed, desperately trying to catch even a few hours of sleep. In the end, I managed only 2 short, fragmented hours before the relentless awareness of my surroundings pulled me back to consciousness. As the 20th hour approached, boredom and restlessness settled over me like a heavy blanket. With no phone to distract me, no television to fill the void, and no human interaction to break the isolation, I wandered aimlessly through the labyrinth of corridors. I leafed through old manuals, examined outdated equipment, and even attempted some light exercises to keep my body moving. Despite these efforts, a pervasive loneliness lingered, a constant reminder of the isolation I had chosen to endure. Then, just when I felt the monotony might overwhelm me completely, a sound pierced the silence, a subtle rustling that was barely perceptible, yet distinct enough to freeze me in my tracks. I paused, heart pounding, straining to hear any further evidence of its source. It was as if the bunker itself had come alive, its silence suddenly filled with an inexplicable energy. I wondered if I was truly alone, or if some other presence had been waiting in the shadows all along. Cautiously, I moved toward the sound, each step measured and hesitant. But as I rounded a corner, I found nothing but the same empty, echoing corridor. The noise faded as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving me to wonder if my mind was playing tricks on me. That unexplained sound marked the final phase of my ordeal, a poignant reminder that survival is as much about mental fortitude as it is about physical endurance. The mystery lingered with me as I made my way back to the small space where I had attempted to sleep, the echo of that fleeting sound a constant companion. The rest of the hours passed in a haze of exhaustion and introspection, each moment a test of my will to persevere in the face of overwhelming isolation. Finally, when the 24-hour mark approached, I felt a mix of relief and disbelief. I had endured the cold, the stale air, the unsettling silence, and the creeping tendrils of loneliness. With trembling hands, I opened the bunker door once more and stepped back into the sunlight. The world above felt overwhelmingly bright after the oppressive darkness of the bunker, and I welcomed the familiar sounds and sensations of the surface with open arms. Walking out, I carried with me the indelible lessons of that day, a stark reminder that true survival is not just about the physical challenges of food, water, and shelter, but about the inner strength required to confront isolation and the unknown. The bunker, with its decaying walls and haunting echoes, had forced me to face my deepest fears, and, in doing so, had revealed a reservoir of resilience I never knew existed. That experience transformed me. I had learned that in the absence of modern comforts, one is left with the raw essentials of life: resourcefulness, mental endurance, and the will to keep moving forward despite the overwhelming odds. As I emerged from that underground sanctuary, I realized that sometimes the most profound journeys are not about where you go, but what you discover within yourself in the face of extreme adversity. After spending a full day locked inside a nuclear bunker, I have a whole new respect for survivalists. The isolation, the uncertainty, the lack of fresh air, it's a challenge beyond just food and water. It's mental resilience that truly determines whether you can survive. So, what do you think? Could you last 24 hours, or even longer, in a nuclear bunker? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this survival experiment, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.